I had gone in thinking I'd do a combination of English, psychology, and math. And then freshman year, I took an English class and I took a psych class, and I actually really enjoyed my psych class. My English class, not so much. Then I was like thinking, oh, maybe I'll do a psych major. And then sophomore year, I ended up doing a math class, and I really enjoyed that and realized that I want to do like math and bio because I've taken a couple of intro bio classes as well. I was like, oh, this is something that I'm really good at and I'm really enjoying more than anything else. Then that kind of like set my mind on math and bio. But I thought I'd do a bio major and a math minor, but then I ended up enjoying math a lot more than I was doing bio. So I was like, why not do a math major? Because I've always been good at math, kind of. So I was like, it's a good balance.
Sure, sure. And then, of course, the Claremont Consortium offers interesting possibilities. Did you use
Yeah.
the cross-registration classes at Harvey, Mart, Pomona, Claremont? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's really easy to cross-register. All the classes are on the same portal. So you can literally just sign up for any class you want. And I have taken class at every single college now. I've taken CS at MAR, I've taken bio at Pittsburgh and CMC, I've taken physics chem, and most of my math classes are actually at Pomona. So I have definitely used all five colleges to their math.
So if you were to describe a math major as to what are the different steps to graduate with math, and then obviously there's different tracks within math as well.
Yeah.
And since you also have a bio minor, what's the overlap like? So what's the journey for a math major?
So I always knew that I am not very fan of pure math, which is the more theoretical side of mathematics. I've always been more interested in the analytical side. So most of the classes are geared around stats in math. So I'm taking probability, statistics, mathematics and big data, like these kind of classes that are more analytical and not as much theoretical. So, but usually what I've noticed that the other peers who are doing math majors, they end up sticking to the more theoretical side of math, which is a possibility. It's just much harder and you don't have as many resources to help you out, especially at Scripps, since Scripps does not have a lot of math majors. And that's where the other colleges really come in. So I've just been lucky that my advisor has like focused on analytical math instead of theoretical math. So I haven't had to go outside of Scripps for help in terms of my major track, but I do know that my peers have struggled finding adequate support for theoretical math because it is such a vague field. But I mean, I enjoy it. I really like all my classes. It's hard at first, but once you get the hang of it, the way you think just completely changes in terms of how you approach questions and the entire subject.
Fantastic. And what about like the cusp between biology and math? How did you find opportunities to study as well as think about maybe a data science application in those areas of life sciences?
So there are actually courses on biostats and bioinformatics offered at the colleges, which is what I jumped at the opportunity to take because I thought that's a really good intersection. The first course I took was genomics and bioinformatics because I'd gone in thinking maybe I'll do genetic research. And the course ended up being much more computational than I had thought it would be. And I went in as someone who had no computer science experience. And everyone in that class had like done a lot of CS. So I definitely struggled, but I ended up doing really well in the class because I had to work twice as hard. And that's what made me realize that that's something that I'm really enjoying doing. And then I started focusing on like more statistical computational bio classes, which gelled really well with my stats math classes.
So what is the computer science sort of toolkit you need to build or you had to build because you didn't have the background very quickly? What are the courses or other online or resources that you had to use? Which languages, what platforms?
I actually didn't need online courses because my professor was really helpful. She spent time with me outside of class helping me learn Python and R really well because that is kind of the base of all biostats, bioinformatics courses. And even statistical theory and all in math. So Python and R are really, really important languages to know really well, at least in college, because that's kind of what everything is going to be based off of. Then I
Great.
ended up taking CS at MUD. Like I took a class and I took a CS course at MUD to just help me hone my skills a little better.
Fantastic. Just the fact that your professor was able to give you time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the requirement on the course would have stated
Yeah.
that you need some of these prior knowledge
Yeah.
already in. So
Yeah.
what kind of projects or real life applications or research opportunities do typically students do in this area of bioinformatics, biostats?
So if you talk about bioinformatics, it's more in genetic research. So you'd work in a lab and you'd do more like sequencing DNA and analyzing that sequenced DNA, which is what we did in the course as well. So like you pick an animal and then you sequence its DNA and then you'd have a question that you want to answer. Like I looked at cancer in mice, and so analyzing the mice, the DNA sequence, you can see the different kind of cancers that they're more genetically predisposed towards and all. So that's kind of what we did in bioinformatics. Biostats is much wider in the sense that we didn't just stick to problems in the life sciences. We went outside, we looked at the economy, like analyzing trends and all. So it's really interesting how you can apply all these and outside the life sciences as well.
And of course, now with the pandemic,
Yeah.
there is so much data all around.
Yeah.
What are the trends you see in application of either bioinformatics or biostats? It's kind of companies and research that's coming out.
I think in light of this pandemic, the field's just gonna blow up like crazy because that's what people are using to, try to get a vaccine out faster and to kind of analyze the trends of how the virus is spreading and how quick it spreads. And, you need these skills to predict the trends of the virus and how it's going to move. And having had pandemics having been there in the past as well, you can kind of compare the trends and see where it's going to go. I mean, these skills come very much in handy, especially now.
Yeah, these are difficult times, especially for, of course, people who are suffering, but also for the frontline workers and people who are researching frantically to find something. So do you see a lot of research at campuses, which are small liberal arts colleges, which is relevant, not necessarily just to this, but overall, what is the emphasis of research at the Claremont colleges? I know there are research institutes and all that, but what have you sort of noticed?
I personally haven't done research with any professor in the Claremont colleges. And the only exposure I've had has been to research in bio. So generally what students do is they approach a professor whose research is somewhat in line with their interests, and then they'd ask the professor if the professor would like to hire them as like a student to like work on their research with. You don't always get it, and you don't always get your first choice of professor because professors tend to work with students like from sophomore year onwards. So if you're a junior, it's harder to get a professor of your choice. But as a senior, you're more likely to because then you end up working with that professor for your thesis as well. So either way, if you're doing bio or chemistry or physics, you get a lot of research opportunities because professors are doing something or the other all the time.
So switching gears now, if you were to look at opportunities for a biostats, biomath sort of major or combination, major, minor, how do you plan ahead? Like, what is it that you could be doing next after you graduate?
There are two options. Either I go straight to grad school or I look at a job. So for grad school, it's very important to look at the course structure that the schools are offering. So I was looking at a couple of schools and I was trying to look at the biostats programs. And each school biostats program has like a different topic of interest. So some are geared towards larger problems, or some are geared towards solving smaller problems. So each school also like the kind of courses that you would be doing are very different. So in terms of grad school, I think that's really important to look at the kind of course that you'd want to do in a graduate program. In terms of jobs, it's really, you need to try to focus on a sweet spot of your interests, what you're good at, and what's going to and growth in terms of a professional sphere. So I would personally be looking at data analytics jobs, which are more geared towards the life sciences, because that's where I want to go. So you just kind of need to figure out what you want to do professionally and then just go for it.